would be for August 15th to be considered at the September meeting, December 15th to be considered at the January meeting, and April 15th to be considered at the May meeting. We'd like to require that funding applicants require that funding applicants appear at the board meeting, but note that their request will be voted on whether or not they choose to appear. We'll meet before each of those board meetings to review the applications for accuracy and completeness so that if something is wrong with it, it can be sent back to the applicants ahead of the board meeting. And then because these are requirements that are sort of in addition to the requirements of DUN, the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, we would like to get the word out through all of our social media, website, etc., to make sure everyone is aware of these requirements. And to that end, we'll be doing outreach to all of the organizations that we've given out funds to in recent years and the other organizations that we feel may be potential people who would come to us to request funding. So any questions or discussion?
Is there a prohibition if there's an emergency request for funding outside of the?
You know, we didn't address that directly in our proposal, but I would say that if somebody has an emergency request, they could always ask for it to be put on the agenda. But the thing is, with city funding, there's not really an emergency because it's going to take 2 months no matter what. So in that instance, they could probably just wait till the next deadline. But we could consider those requests as
card emergency up to however much we're allowed.
But we can't use the key card to pay community organizations. So we could always vote on our own operational requests. This is for people coming to us to request funding.
So just a report. Thank you,
Actually, it's an action that we have to.
What's the time?
Yeah, we have to move to accept that proposal.
I move to.
Well, I could.
Why
So I move that we have 3 funding applications each year, August 15th, December 15th, and April 15th, that applicants be required to appear at our meetings, and that we will do outreach to everyone in the community to inform them of the new procedure.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second motion. Second. Great. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is item 3G, discussion action, co-sponsorship of NDLA Northeast Los Angeles Mario Forum, February the 12th, Ernc member representative, and $50 for refreshments.
So very briefly, I've been talking to the president of the Historic Highland Park Neighborhood Council, Monica Alcaraz, and they are having a mayoral forum next week on the 12th, featuring everybody, all the candidates. And they, at this late date, would like us to join, and I personally think it's a great idea. But I would like us to approve $50 to provide refreshments to them, and Jennifer and Eddie have already agreed to show up and help set up and break down and all that business. I personally think it's a great thing, and it's a good start towards this whole coalition we've been talking about. Any questions?
But to be clear, it's different than the forum.
Completely different from everything else.
It's all candidates.
But if you notice, you go to their Facebook page, there's everybody else's, there's all the logos of surrounding neighborhood councils, and it'd be great to sort of get in the mix and start talking to people, and Highland Park is right over there.
We also have a tabletop banner that has the neighborhood council that.
We'll be allowed to hand out things and.
Okay, so we have a motion.
So not yet. I move to allocate up to $50 for refreshments.
Wait a second.
I second.
Okay, all of you, and to be co-sponsors.
And to be a co-sponsor. So friendly amendment, co-sponsor, and $50 refreshments.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Okay, motion carries. Thank you very much. Item 3H, land use report. Oren, to Tom.
Yeah, so we had I'm Oren Baton, Michelle Fryer, co-chair of the Land Use Committee. We had our first meeting of the new term last week, the 24th.
Oren, I already kind of gave a brief summary.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Good. Well, it was well attended.
yeah.
Glad this meeting is as well. And we'll move on to the agenda items.
Yeah, you can go for it.
Thank you. Okay, next item is 3J, discussion, action, sculptures on Colorado meeting and possible ad hoc committee. Oren, any Michelle.
Yes, so the Land Use Committee voted to explore utilizing the median on Colorado Boulevard to place public art sculptures of forms to be determined. We have a resident artistic expert who I'm sure will chime in sometime, Carrie Tribe. But I told her I'd put her on the spot. But the thinking was potentially to do some type of competition. Carrie's idea was a good one, I think, perhaps do it in conjunction with Occidental College or another local institution. And so the motion would be to explore doing that, working with partners, how to structure a competition, what approvals we need from the Department of Transportation. There are graffiti issues, safety issues, distracting driver issues, all of which will be explored if the motion is approved by the neighborhood council.
Thank you. Now, you want to make a motion?
Move that the Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council explore the construction, the funding, construction, and possibly some sort of competition structure to place public art sculptures on the Colorado Boulevard medians.
I have a question there.
Go ahead.
On the motion, it talks about funding. Are we funding the whole project?
We're not funding anything.
We don't have any dollar amount. They're probably the exploring part, right?
Just exploring. Yeah.
Is a motion required to explore something, or?
Yeah, I mean, there's
I'm formal.
Yeah.
There's a motion to have that happen.
Well, it's, I think, it's approving a member or members of the neighborhood council contacting outside organizations on behalf of the neighborhood council to explore it. So I think that's really what the approval is.
Okay.
If there are others interested in forming that committee, great.
Let Orin and Michelle know if you're interested on that. Okay. Thank you. Now, item 3K, discussion, action.
Let's get I guess get a vote on it.
That was a motion. We have a second.
Carrie second.
Second.
Oh, I do, I'm sorry, Ethan seconded. Ethan seconded.
Ethan second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstain?
One abstention.
One abstention. Okay.
That was just Dave.
That was me.
Dave?
Oh,
Dave
okay,
Green.
abstaining.
Dave Green
Okay, one.
abstained.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to move on to 3K, discussion, action, board vote on new land use committee members, nominations. Orin and Michelle?
Yeah, I think we skipped I, the parklets. If you want to go back to that, or we can do that afterwards.
Well, the parklets, okay.
You want
Let's go on this one and then we'll go back to
All
that.
right, land use member. I know that David Green and Baker expressed interest in joining the land use committee. So I'd like to move to add them to the land use committee.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstaining?
Welcome. Abstaining?
Anybody opposed? Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you. We're going to go back to item.
There were some people who, like, anybody out here who was at the land use meeting?
If anyone else is interested in joining, I'd suggest attending the next land use committee meeting, February the 21st, I believe, last third Thursday of the month, 7 o'clock at this location, and we can talk about you joining the committee as well.
See how we conducted the items that come before us, and you're going to see a little bit tonight, so you'll see what it's all about. Okay, back to item 3I, the parklets on Colorado and Eagle Rock Boulevard, possible ad hoc committee, Orin and Michelle.
Same kind of thing. There is a mention of a lot of support for parklets now that Nate gave us the introduction to one-time parks. So maybe make this quick and easy. I move to make an ad hoc committee exploring parklets. Exploring, more exploring.
Can I raise a question before?
Sure.
Well, Matt can probably speak to this too, but Take Back the Boulevard is already working with LADOT to explore
And plus,
parklets.
yeah, one of the things
So maybe we should say to support, a friendly amendment would be to support parklets on Colorado or Eagle Rock.
Yeah, maybe what we do is you inform the land use committee specifically about parklets and what Take Back the Boulevard is bringing to the table, just in case we have suggestions.
And I believe it's not just Take Back the Boulevard. I know that the Department of Transportation's Streets for People program is already looking at Colorado and Eagle Rock and is talking to Take Back the Boulevard. So
And one of the
So
things
they're
that
all
we did on
together.
Take Back the Boulevard was we went around with the urban planning people to see where would good carpets and bulb outs be on the boulevard. Yeah, so we have started looking into that.
Yeah, I think the idea was to work in conjunction with you, Take Back the Boulevard. I know some of the members of the board here have personal relationships with business owners, so I think the thinking was to utilize those. I think the report's coming out in April, so I think the idea was to explore potential locations, find business owners who are interested in it, so that when the procedure was actually finalized to begin new parklets, we would have ready, willing, and able business owners.
That's one of the things that Take Back the Boulevard is already doing. Is
Yeah.
How many people that you want to speak to the business owners multiple times? It seems it fits.
Yeah.
Now, he could, that's why he's our representative, he can report back. Now, the other question is that it's open to the public, right? And then when is your meetings, and if anybody else is interested, wants to sit in on it?
It's tomorrow, the next meeting is tomorrow.
Who would be contacted, who's interested, more on the subject?
The people, it depends. There's the people at Colombo's who are interested, the people at Thomasburg's who are interested, people at Peekaboo are interested, Canello's. There are a bunch of people who are interested, but some of those places just don't work.
Also,
Logistical purposes.
it's my understanding that they're actually going in the red no parking zones and not in parking spaces, so in front of, so it's not actually taking away parking spaces.
Right.
So that limits where they can go.
Yeah.
So I think we already have a rep, instead of repeating it, he'll just come back, if it's okay with land use, just come back with the reports and I'll be okay on that, and then, so we don't, and then we'll have our rep already appointed on that and can bring up these items and let us know updates on what we just did. Okay, we can go on that. Next item is going to be 3L, formation of an ad hoc committee to explore the amending the Colorado Boulevard specific plan and communicating with local business about its requirements, exceptions, and enforcement. I know Oren was on this and Baker Montgomery, and I know the council office is here. And, I know everybody wants to do that, and we did bring that up in the past that yes, there's a lot of restaurants out there that are in violations or places because they're open past the hour, but we were assured by the council member's office that nobody is being enforced or the hours or billing and safety, so and then we'll have, that's going to be coming back to review. So go ahead.
I wanted to make a comment about that. I've been contacted by a couple of local business owners, and I think there's a couple of issues. I mean, one is I do think that it's worth revisiting the letter of the plan, and there's obviously a process to do that. But as regards the non-enforcement of the plan, I think that a lot of businesses, or at least the ones that I've heard from, are uncomfortable with openly violating the letter of the plan for fear that somebody might just decide someday to come and crack down on them. So for example, they may stay open past 9 p.m., but they're not going to put that on their sign, they're not going to put that on their website, they're not going to advertise those hours. So it really does hamper their ability to fully operate outside the bounds of that plan. And they also feel like to even come out and raise the issue would shine a light on them. And so there's some uncertainty and even, I would say, fear of enforcement should they start to make noise about it. So just a voice of support, I guess, for trying to bring it all out in the open and above board through whatever process we have to go through to do that.
Yeah, I think that was exactly the point, is to find another mechanism of allowing businesses to stay open later aside from pressing their luck. And David Green found an interesting, I guess it was an approval form where a business actually did obtain an official exemption, hours exemption. So maybe we can get a small group together to explore doing that for businesses that are interested in doing so without having to amend all those to their plan.
And I do know that that is pretty major, expensive, and it has to go before the whole city of Los Angeles City Council. So it's something.
The council office is already looking into it, just, we've made that request. I think Warren and I both have spoken with staff, and it's my understanding that they're willing to move forward and that just making a motion to change that perspective would not be a cost on the level of amending the entire plan, which is going to happen in a couple of years.
Obviously, we want to do our most to support local businesses. I think that whenever you have something like changing hours, we would encourage that there be community outreach done to neighbors surrounding businesses before any changes are made. Michael is right that it would cost a lot of money. There are other ways of doing it, but anytime you open something up, you open up one piece of it, obviously people are going to want to look at other pieces of it as well. So we really want to be as fair as possible to both the business owners and the community members. So I think that any process that it's done, it makes sense to have open communication to all the interested parties in the situation.
Yeah, if I could just follow on that, there are a lot of, I happen to be one of them, so I'm speaking self-interest here, but I know a lot of people who live very close to Colorado Boulevard. And those of us who live and own and have families, we disproportionately are affected by people who want to have late businesses with late hours and noise and parking, and people are filling our streets all the time. So this is a very complicated issue, and I know we would all love to have convenient late night food around, but it actually affects people. And until we have a global plan that increases parking, reduces the flow of traffic on Colorado, gets it decommissioned as a major Class 2 highway, all the things that will make it more of a truly pedestrian-friendly community, I think there are a lot of people who would have a lot of problems with us purporting to tinker officially or semi-officially with this specific plan.
How do you want to do this, Warren?
Well, I'd like to move to form an ad hoc committee to explore the mechanism for advocating on behalf of businesses that do want to stay open beyond the current hours requirement. Nothing obviously will be done without community outreach, coming back to the board, many additional steps. This is the first of many. So that's the motion.
I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And any abstaining?
So are we naming committee members? Are we doing?
Yeah, who's interested in, we can do it now. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Ashley, Baker, Liam, Michelle, myself.
Beautiful, and then you'll just report.
I'll come back.
That'll be a little, okay. Okay, item 3M, discussion action, formation of new bylaws committee to further refine and streamline ERNC bylaws. Carrie and David.
Dave, you want to take this?
Oh, sure. As you know, last time around, we amended the bylaws with an ad hoc committee that's dissolved. And we took care of some really important stuff. There are a few smaller things and more sort of philosophical things that I think could also be looked at and justify forming another ad hoc committee in the same vein to discuss and explore, if not act. Specifically, there's some inelegant language in the bylaws, some vague language in the bylaws, specifically about things like absences. I think there's a phrase in there that if you have 4 unexcused absences, you may be automatically removed from the board. Parse that. But there are other things like sub-districts that I know Carrie's interested in. She's interested in exploring, or us deciding whether we want to have sub-district only voting or open voting for sub-district representatives. That's probably the most important thing. And there are other issues that may come up. So, any discussion? I'm going to move that we form an ad hoc committee to look at the bylaws, to adjust them some more. I believe, and the reason we're doing it is because I don't think we've submitted the last changes to Dunn yet, have we? Anyone? Have we submitted them to Dunn?
We have not.
The idea would be to submit all the changes all at once.
I second the motion.
Second motion, okay. All in favor?
Wait, I'm sorry. Are you also, is part of this motion that we're submitting all of these changes that have yet to be
We've
discussed? all at
decided to
once?
submit
And
those.
we've already
Those-
decided, right,
We've
what's
already
be
decided.
said, we're submitting all
On
of
the
them.
big things, these are
Right, but we're going to go ahead and submit what we've already.
Those will be
approved.
submitted no matter what. At some point in the future, because we have not submitted them yet.
Right,
So
but I'm just saying, we're not holding off and submitting what we've
No.
already approved. That's not the proposal.
We are not.
Okay.
The proposal is not to submit that. The idea is that it may be quite a fairly simple and
speedy process to make these other changes. If there's no urgent pressing need because of when elections are scheduled to submit the other changes, it may be that we can do them all at once, but that's a separate issue from whether this ad hoc committee would be formed. If you want to go ahead and submit them, no one's stopping you. Is that?
We have a motion, we have a second.
Yeah, and as long as we're not putting off submitting what
We
we've
are
already
not putting,
approved.
that's not part of the motion, and I don't think either of us or anyone that would be on the ad hoc committee is interested in postponing that at all. Rather, we're interested in using that submission as an excuse to push this other stuff off the back burner and just kind of get it over with.
We
Okay.
do maybe a friendly amendment to remove the last part of David's motion to submit them together, that we won't submit them together.
Right.
If it happens, it happens, but
Yes.
that's not worth it.
I accept the friendly amendment.
Okay. We had a motion, we had a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Abstain? It passes. Thank you very much. I know we have some people in here that are waiting.
Yeah, can I ask a question? Are we going to self-nominate for this ad hoc committee, or?
Can we do that now, or should we do that next
I'd like to
time?
self-nominate to be on the ad
Great.
hoc committee.
Anyone else want to be on this committee?
I will be on this committee. Mary will be on this committee.
Yes. We will be on, Dave and I will be on this committee.
So, Mary, David, Matt, and Greg. Anybody else?
Thank you. Item 3, discussion. No, wait a second. Okay, no, this is a little faster. Item N, discussion, action, establishment of an official ERNC patch account to disseminate the information. Baker Montgomery, Monica Blanchard, and David Green.
So I made some comments on patch, and it became apparent that it would probably be better, especially considering I'm the communications director, if there was a separate official ERNC patch account that would then disseminate information to people, because the patch is becoming increasingly important in the neighborhood. Most people are getting information from it, so it would be a good idea, we think, to have an official ERNC account.
My name is on this as, I suppose, a de facto co-sponsor, but I have a question, which is to say that, maybe it's more of a comment. It seems to me that depending on how we represent ourselves in such an account, that appears as if it were the voice of the council, which it seems to me would then need to be officially agreed and voted on by us anytime we wanted to do anything.
But
So-
it's purely informational, right? So no, there's no sort of subjective.
Right, but I guess maybe it's just a point of clarification. Are you suggesting that the account would actually just be the Year Neighborhood Council, or would it be Baker Montgomery Communications Director
No,
or the
When
ERNC?
as a communications director, I would be the one, saying the meetings tonight, if you're interested. If this is an interest to you, these are the meetings tonight.
So we can restrict the communications to informational.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I just need additional clarification of why you think it's not sufficient that that come from you as Communications Director.
It could be, but so if I want to make comments personally, right, as Baker Montgomery, who happens to be the communications director, it is my opinion that can be a little bit confusing to people. So if there was also a Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council account, it had nothing to do with Baker Montgomery, right? So it would hopefully mitigate some of the issues that possibly could come up for me as a private
So
citizen.
you're doing both?
As we do.
Under the same name.
So, I mean, the other thing to consider before we make a motion is you could do, the alternative would be instead of having an official Voice of God ERNC account, which we kind of have, which we have on Facebook, which is this, the three of us kind of do the Facebook thing, and then the ERNC saying, hey, go look at this, hey, come to this. You could do the same thing on Patch. The problem with Patch is there's back and forth, and you get that on Twitter, another organization, the back and forth with the company or the organization, and we haven't gotten into that yet. That could be an interesting problem, but that happens. But that happens on Patch. So the other thing to consider would be Baker's communications director is allowed to do the official ERNC stuff, and everyone else on this board on Patch has to have a standard boilerplate disclaimer every time they talk on there saying, I do not represent the ERNC. I mean, they're both equally flawed.
We want to kind of wrap this up. We have a lot of stakeholders
Yeah.
here, and they're waiting for some answers. I want to, you want to table this item?
Let's table.
Let's table this item for next ride, because we have a lot of our people here at stake late.
We're going to table street vendors too, because that's
Street management, okay. Next item. Item 3P is development located at 1507 North Tonawanda Avenue, and that's the corner of York Boulevard and Tonawanda. A proposed 7-Eleven retail convenience store operating 24 hours with alcohol sales limited from 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. More discussion and vote took place at ENRC letter, case file, and go on and on and on. But I'm going to bring it up to our land use. And Michelle, it went up to your committee?
Right, so the land use committee, and I'll lay out it eventually approved the development subject to several conditions. And I'll just make a personal note. I, as the co-chair, actually voted no against the development after receiving vigorous opposition from many community stakeholders, including the providers of Siding Spectacle, Occidental College, individuals coming up to me, and my own personal perception that 7-Eleven didn't fit in with York Boulevard as it is today. The renderings for the proposal look great. The architect did a nice job with them, and I think both Michelle and I, and I'll let her comment herself, were of the opinion that we like the development, but not the 7-Eleven anchor tenant. And if the developer were to come back with another anchor tenant, it may be well received. And I'll defer to her for a personal comment, and then I'll lay out exactly what the land use committee did.
Yeah, noting everything you said, I also voted no. Accepting that, I think what was brought aware to us is that although it is an empty lot, a lot of the neighbors have voiced that they would prefer that over this current development. So it was kind of an eye-awakening moment. So it's interesting to see what's going to go on tonight, and I'd like to hear more about from each party involved.
So the land use committee did approve the proposal 4-2, 4 in favor, 2 against, subject to the following conditions: to limit alcohol sales from noon to 10 p.m. Come back and submit a landscaping proposal for approval by the land use committee and the general board, to have a right turn only sign exiting the mini mall, have at least one surveillance camera, post a no loitering sign, maintain the design as it was depicted in the renderings that were presented to the land use committee by the architect David Freeland, I believe his name is, the same guy that did Maximiliano, the Italian restaurant, and no more than 20% of sales could come from the sale of beer and wine. There's a question of how enforceable that is, and the entire approval is temporary. It's only for 1 year, so that the developers would come back after a year and we would reevaluate the approval at that point.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and have a small presentation from the developer at 7-Eleven. You could do so at this time, and then we're going to go into our public comment. So we probably want to get the lights on.
Good evening, everyone. It's good to see a lot of you again. Each time we come here, there's more people. One thing that wasn't discussed in that introduction is that there was a zoning administration hearing last week downtown LA. Many of you were there. And just to report to you, so you have all the facts, there was some concern from the zoning administrator about how the development is described in 2 phases. And there was also a mix-up with the city of LA and the posting. The notifications went out in the mail through the city, and then there was an individual one that we did. But the actual sign on the site didn't get posted by PPC, which is a consultant for the city. So with those 2 reasons, we're coming back to the zoning administrator probably in about 6 to 8 weeks. We don't know exactly when. There's a long line of projects ahead of us. We are reapplying to the city probably Tuesday, Wednesday next week. And so there's going to be another mailing that you will get, and there will be a sign that's posted not just for the ABC license, but for also our development. And then also the other thing is that the application is going to be refined to just the 7-Eleven. Our application is for the sale of beer and wine, that's the CUP, and then there's the CUP, which is the proposal to be open 24 hours a day. But our proposal for 7-Eleven is just for the building that is existing. It's just a modification of that building, a tenant improvement and a shell improvement, and some minor site improvements. So the zoning administrator advised us to separate that from the rest of the development, which is to the west of that larger building. There's two smaller buildings and about half the other site. So we are going to fine tune the site plan, floor plans, elevations, renotice, and resubmit to the city here next week. So there'll be other opportunities for you to come to a city hearing zoning administrator. And then also, we've talked about continuing our outreach to, I believe it's Tara. I think there was a representative here earlier and the last meeting, and Occidental College and Chamber of Commerce's. We'll reach out again to the other neighborhood associations, but they meet the same day that the Lands Committee meets for you. So in the past, they said, okay, there's a conflict of interest. They'll take care of the recommendations of the city. Thank you for notifying us. But we'll reach out to them again. So that being said, I don't know if David, if you want to speak some more,
Sure.
To add to that, and then we're here for questions.
Thank you very much, everybody. My name is David Deegan. I represent the developer of this project. I don't represent 7-Eleven, but what I wanted to share with you guys, first of all, I was going to do a presentation, but I'm not going to do that because I know everybody wants to go home, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit and do it manually instead. What I wanted to share with you guys, I'll just put this up here really quick. Let's see if I can use my laser pointer to kind of show you what I'm talking about. This is the 7-Eleven portion here, okay, which encompasses about 25% of the project. The other 75% of the project is highly dependent on 7-Eleven and on your support for 7-Eleven. What I wanted to do very quickly, and I'm going to do this as quickly as possible, is this site was located or is located in the enterprise zone. Okay, now I'm going to hand this out to you guys. I'm sorry, I don't have enough copies for everybody, but we can just hand it. And you guys. Basically, the reason why the site is in the redevelopment zone or in the enterprise zone is because the area needs to be revitalized. The community would like to see new development, and most likely is encouraging jobs as well to be created there. This center, actually, we've estimated that 44 new jobs are going to be created as a result of the center. The actual amount of revenues that's going to be created from those jobs, just the employees alone, are going to be bringing in about approximately $1.7 million a year if you calculate it at $8 an hour for those 44 employees, which is going to be recirculated right back into the local economy. Very, very quickly, what I want to share with you guys is that this site, this is the existing condition, used to be a market that sold beer and wine for over 20 years. During the 20 years they sold beer and wine, they didn't have any problems.
Not true.
12 years.
Whatsoever.
Go ahead.
Let him finish his presentation, man.
The owner that purchased the site, which was Casa Princesa, was a owner-user who actually had a banner company as well, which went out of business. The property was foreclosed. After the property was foreclosed, the site has been blighted for the past 2 years. As the consulting firm, we tried very hard to find a tenant for the site. We had banners, we hired brokers, we never got any tenants to really sign on the dotted line. They would come very close and back away. We had a very, very hard time securing a tenant. We were very fortunate to get 7-Eleven as our tenant for this location. Because what 7-Eleven has afforded us to do, it's helped us procure financing for the rest of the 75% of the center. Now, some people have said a small minority are against the development, and a lot of people, we did our own community outreach. Every single person that I spoke with was for the development, with the exception of the small group that is represented here tonight.
Folks, there's no time for questions.
You'll have a chance.
Go ahead. Those who want to speak on this side, you have a chance with the speaker card. Go ahead, please.
Sorry. That was just my experience. Basically, what I wanted to share with you is that we've had numerous break-ins into the location. This is a broken window. We had a fire by a homeless person that actually burned down the garage in the back. We've had a lot of problems here. This development would not be possible without 7-Eleven, because 7-Eleven is a accredited rated tenant, and I'm not even sure if the federal government has a rating as far as credit is concerned at this time. So it was because of this A rating that we were able to secure financing for the site. I actually am holding a letter that's up on the screen from Farmers and Merchants Bank. This letter, it's very short, I'm going to read it very quickly. It says, as per our discussion, I'm writing this in response to your application for financing the 7-Eleven and Commercial Center Development Project located at 4515 York Boulevard, Los Angeles, California. We initially approved financing for the construction of the 7-Eleven and the attached commercial center. If the 7-Eleven is able to secure a beer and wine license, then that higher lease income will enable the owner to meet underwriting requirements and secure financing. Please call if you have any questions. I look forward to working with you. This is from Farmers and Merchants Bank. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to ask for your support, because without 7-Eleven, there is going to be no financing to finish the other 75% of this project. We actually have hired a local architect, David Freeland, who redesigned the center to the taste of the Eagle Rock community. We've been able to procure tenants. We've received letters of intent from various tenants, including the UPS store, a local restaurant, and additionally, we have been in discussion with Chipotle and many, many other tenants that have expressed interest in coming to this new center. I also want to hand out this, actually this is a picture of the burned down building as well, when the building burned down. I'll just pass this down to you guys if you guys want to take a look at this. And then these are the renderings. Take a look at the renderings. Sure. Great, thank you guys. And finally, I did some outreach myself. I spoke with local residents. The response that I received was very favorable. We saw the whole breadth of the project. This is Chad Warren. Chad, if you could also share your experience, because he did most of the community outreach. This is Chad Warren from Newcastle.
I'll do it real quick. I'm hungry. I'm sure you are. It's great to see you guys. As I said, we were concerned at the last land use meeting to see the opposition to 7-Eleven actually surprised us. And I've been around a lot of 7-Elevens over the years, and it's usually never been a problem. But, so I wanted to go out and see what actually people were, what their opinions were. So I did, I went that Friday and also Monday, going around and went over and talked with some of the business owners in the area. I also just talked to people in general, especially hanging out at Starbucks, which is one of my favorite places to live. And I did find that pretty much, probably like 99.9% of people I talked to love the idea of the center of the 7-Eleven. I wasn't getting much opposition at all. You know, I did go and talk with the friends of the what's it called, the Society of. I love that story. Anyway, but we, you know, and tried to see what we could do to come to some agreement. We just agreed to disagree. And I talked to some of the owners in the area that said they didn't want to sign anything because they didn't want to get any conflict with any people at work in the neighborhood against it, but they were in support. I got 17 signatures here. I got people that supported it just in a little time that I was there. And you know, there was head of HR over at Sparky's, which is across the street. They were definitely in support of it. He said if I got to Starbucks before 8 o'clock in the morning, I'd get a ton of signatures because the guys there would love to see it. People over at the auto store. I talked to another business. He said if I signed it, my wife would kill me, but I think it would be great for business. So in general, I mean, I did find that the majority of people that I talked to did support it and were in background. So a lot of the impression I get from the opposition of 7-Eleven is on the projection of possible negative futures, and which may or may not be based upon what will actually really happen. I think that, you know, we personally feel that bringing something to a corner that does have problems with homelessness and theft and break-ins, that is beautiful centers like this that will have cameras and light in the area will actually benefit the community and actually reduce crime in that area. So we would like to get your approval on this. I'll give you our. Anyways, thank you very much.
Michael, go ahead. Okay, I think this is important for 7-Eleven. I was at the last land use committee meeting and took note of the conditions from the land use committee and implemented those into these conditions. I've added some of them to the conditions that we can present to Vanessa and planning for the ZA for approval at the time. So I'm going to quickly read through these, and I've got copies of all of the board. The first condition, the sale of alcohol beverage shall be permitted only between the hours of 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. daily. Store hours of operation will be 24 hours. There shall be no sales of fortified wine or beer. Wine shall not be sold in containers smaller than 1 liter at 750 milliliters. Wine coolers shall not be sold in units of less than a 4-pack, and beer shall not be sold in units less than a 3-pack. No alcoholic beverages shall be consumed on property nor any property adjacent to the licensed premises under the petition. There shall be no exterior advertising, including advertising directed to the exterior from within, promoting or indicating the availability of alcoholic beverages. Signs shall be posted within which indicate that California law prohibits the sale of alcohol beverages to minors. No person under the age of 18 shall sell alcoholic beverages. Within 1 year of the effective date of the determination, all personnel involved in the sale of alcohol, including anyone acting in the capacity of a manager of the premise, shall complete, this is the STAR training that LAPD was talking about, the standardized training for alcohol retailers and CBT training sponsored by 7-Eleven. Condition 9, electronic age verification devices which can be used to determine the age any individual attempting to purchase age-restricted products shall be installed on the premise at each point of sale location. These devices shall be maintained in in an operational condition, and all employees shall be instructed in their use prior to the sale of any age-restricted products. No point-operated amusement devices, video games, or similar game activities shall be maintained on the premise. The front door should be kept closed at all times during the operation of the premise, except in case of emergencies. The back door shall be kept closed at all times during the operation of the premise, except in case of emergencies. The rear door of the premise shall be equipped with an automatic locking device on the inside and shall be closed at all times and shall not be used as a means of access by patrons to and from the licensed premise. Temporary use of the doors for delivery supplies does not constitute a violation.
You can kind of wrap that up because we have a loudspeaker.
The petitioner shall install security lighting on site with sufficient illumination such that LAPD may be able to identify anyone standing outside. The petitioner shall install a video camera system on site. Someone will have a minimum of 3 interior cameras and 1 security camera on the exterior of the store to deter nuisance activities. Security footage shall be maintained for a minimum of 30 days and will be made available to LAPD upon request. And there'll be a panic button as well for emergency 911 calls. There will be petitioner shall regularly monitor the area under control and effort to prevent loitering of the person about the premise and post no loitering signage. And should it occur, the petitioner shall work with LAPD to address chronic loitering and aggressive panhandling. Petitioner shall be responsible for maintaining free of litter the area adjacent to the premise, over which the petitioner has control, including the parking area which is used by patrons of the subject premise. All trash enclosures shall be secure, no trash enclosures shall be placed in the parking lot. All graffiti on the site shall be removed or painted over to match the code of service to which it is applied within 24 hours of occurrence. And the petitioner will cooperate with the prosecution of offenders who engage in unlawful activity on site. Those are the conditions that 7-Eleven is going to submit to the zoning administrator agreement.
Thank you for that report. Okay, we're going to go ahead with our public comments.
So, public comment, everybody gets 2 minutes, just like regular public comment. And yes, please be respectful, as I know you will, because everyone has sat through a long meeting and have showed up to multiple meetings. Thank you for being here. And also, during your 2 minutes, if you want to ask a question of these gentlemen, you may. There will be no questions after. So your 2 minutes is for statements or for questions or for both. And starting off, Haru Lopez.
So at first, I kind of agreed with you that I found this such a good idea with everyone here. Very similar to the same reason that everyone else had. I just didn't think it was the right thing. But if what they're saying is true, which I'm not really sure it is, or I kind of doubt that it is, but if it's true and that's really what they're planning to build, and if 7-Eleven is what's going to make or break it, then I would much rather prefer to have a center like that there. And a lot of my friends and my family that also I've spoken to, they would all prefer to have this there. And I don't know, if we can look at this as if they're saying it's true, and 7-Eleven is contingent on that, then I don't know how any of us could not want that there.
Where do you live?
Where do you live? Where do you live? Address.
Yeah, where do you live?
You're
not part of the recommendation.
Yeah, you're not, it's not your 2 minutes. You can ask questions during your 2 minutes.
You guys,
We're
2
gonna be here all
minutes.
night otherwise.
Let him finish speaking, please. Go ahead, sir.
You guys give him
Where do you live? No, you tell it. I've been there 16 years.
Sir, you're going to be using up your 2 minutes, so go ahead and finish and then.
Well, that's the main thing I wanted to say is if what they're saying is true and that is dependent on 7-Eleven, then I think we should support it. If it's not true and it's really easy to get another tenant, then maybe we should consider.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Jim Tranquata.
I'm Jim Tranquata. I'm the Director of Communications for Occidental College for the past 13 years. This is an unfortunate situation. I think like the rest of the community, Occidental looks forward to welcoming appropriate new commercial development in York. We all look forward to the revitalization of the boulevard. The college understands that 7-Eleven is the anchor tenant of a larger proposed development. The college understands that there's a direct link between financing for the project as a whole and the liquor license for the 7-Eleven, no liquor license, no project. But this would be the 5th liquor license within a 3-block stretch of York Boulevard. And a retail establishment that would be operating 24 hours a day. We don't believe that that's an appropriate use within walking distance of the college campus in this particular location. We appreciate the efforts of the proponent to develop some additional conditions to try to address the concerns of the community. We also appreciate the conditions that were put forward by Michael Tharp of the Land Use Committee at last week's meeting, but we don't believe that these conditions are adequate to address the presence of yet another liquor license on the boulevard at a retail establishment that's operating for 24 hours. So the college regretfully opposes the proposed conditional use permits that would allow liquor sales, a type 20 license, and a 24-hour operation.
Thank you. Next is Katie O'Connell.
Hello, my name is Katie O'Connell, and I, with my sister Amy O'Connell, the Elm Society of the Spectacle. We are at 4563 York. We've been there 6 years. We are residents of Highland Park since 1996. Our passion for the Northeast community is vast, and if you didn't know it already, the York Renaissance, it's on. It's already happening, it's been happening, it's further happening. I want to congratulate Mr. Deegan for bringing this Echo Nursery, a very much needed business in our area that we have needed for at least 5 years. I go to Home Depot to get my nursery goods, or further afield, I can now buy it locally. So thank you for that. As far as our opinion about the center being 20 steps away, we knew the owner of Casa Princesas. We understood what happened when it went under. It lay fallow for these 2 years. There was very little outreach. If it didn't get rented, it's because the rent was too high. Because I had much interest from customers at my store that always asked about that building. We currently have a building on York next to the York that is for rent at $8,000 a month. And that is a joke. It is in the primest property of the street, and whoever has that lease doesn't want to rent it. So if someone wants to rent something, they need to lower the price so that someone can start a business. We got our place for the very same reason. We asked them to lower the price so that we could afford to start a business. We now have been there successfully for 6 years. Do we need a 7-Eleven? The bigger question. The issue is there's so little retail in that hunk of York. There's like very little for sale. We only have liquor for sale. Since the Grocery Mart was there, which was before we were there, we have now gotten the CVS, which is a full liquor license, off-site liquor license, whatever, which is, there are vagrants there are people panhandling for 40 ounces. We all understand what these liquor stores mean to us in our community, and it's really sort of ridiculous to try to paint it as a pretty picture. We already know because we have 4 of them. So we absolutely have to tell you that we do recommend that you vote it down and give us a chance to do something better with our street.
Thank you. Next we have John Goldfarb.
I'm a homeowner in Eagle Rock, but I don't live in the immediate area of the proposed development in Sub-District 8, a couple miles away. At first, although I thought at first that anything that would go up at York and Tonawanda would be better than what's there now, because I realize it's very blighted, I am now against the 7-Eleven going in there, mainly because I read on Eagle Rock Patch about LAPD Chief Beck's opposition to it. And apparently he wrote a letter to the LA Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control in which he noted an overconcentration of businesses licensed to sell alcohol in that area. According to the letter, there are currently 4 off-sale or off-site, I'm not sure of the terminology, alcohol licenses and 4 on-sale license locations in that census tract. but only 3 of each type are supposed to be permitted. So the addition of the 7-Eleven, according to what I understood from Patch, would create a 5th off-site, off-sale location where the alcohol purchased can't be consumed on the vendor's premises. Chief Beck cited 122 calls for service over a year's time within a 2-block radius of the proposed location, which I assume he believes to some degree attributable to the concentration of stores selling alcohol in the area. His letter also said that these locations invite loitering, narcotics activity, and drinking in public. So for me, the LAPD's opposition to the project is good enough. I don't presume to know more than they do about how another store selling alcohol will affect the quality of life in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Next, Tim Ryder.
Yes, I'm resident here in Eagle Rock. I love 7-Eleven. I think it's a great part of the community. In fact, I go there 2 or 3 times a day. My chocolate, my paper, I get lottery tickets there to me. It's an integral part of this community. I also go to the neighborhood watch meeting, and I have yet in the 3 years that I've been going there heard anything going on at the 7-Eleven down here, crime, anything. So our 7-Eleven right here in Colorado, I love it, and nobody's had a problem with it. Now, I don't know, that street down there, that's a wise decision to put it close to another 7-Eleven. I think that's the choice of the developers, that they've probably done their homework. Is it feasible? That's up to them. As far as people, another thing I'm a little nervous about it, are people against it now? And I've heard, I keep hearing different things. People said that Peter Hilton went around and asked people, they were for it. These guys did outreach, and 99% of people were for it. Now there are a couple people coming up and saying they're against it. And we had the same problem with the medical marijuana dispensaries, unfortunately. People would come up, a couple people, and I'm not going to call them loudmouth because I think people should come up and talk about stuff. But there's no petition, people should write their names down. Are they for it? Are they against it? Then you'll know who's for and against it. Right now, these people who are here, I don't know how much money they've already invested in this, but we should tell people before they, spend money in our community, we don't want you in our community. You should get a list of what businesses you want in our community and which ones you don't. Don't wait till these guys come 2 years later after I don't know how much money they spent and say, okay, who's against it? And then people start popping up. Sure. But that's what I would do. What do you have to do? An ad hoc neighborhood commission. What businesses do you want in this community?
Thank you very much. Okay, next, Ivan Keelis.
Hi, my name's Ivan Keelis. I've been a resident on Tonawanda, and my family's owned property for 39 years. I am here representing 8 residents or property owners and 20 to 30 people cumulatively to the 8. I will give you a formal list later on. We are against it, and we hope you vote it down. One thing I want to address, they said 99% positive rating. They were addressing commuters that are not even part of the neighborhood as far as living there. None of the residents were contacted in our community on Tonawanda. Okay, none of them by either the gentleman. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, well.
I've never seen you before, and I live on that street, so you can't tell me that you came to my house and asked for it, because you didn't. I've never seen you.
I didn't say that.
Okay, well, sorry, a majority, they're saying a percentage, and a majority of us were not contacted by either gentleman. They spoke about Norris Produce. Again, I was there for the construction and whatnot. They weren't 24 hours. They sold liquor up until, I believe, 10 or 11 o'clock. As far as the break-in, they already owned the property and they did not have their security screens down, and it was just vandalism because there was nothing to steal at that point. As far as the fire, they were subletting at the time to a solar business, and they, just so you know. As far as the protocol, just to bring to light, I inquired about the posting. I actually inquired on the property when Coldwell Banker took it over from the Casa Princesa. And that, they said at that time that they were thinking about a little center and that they were talking to 7-Eleven at that time. So this, I don't know what's
I'm
going
sorry,
on.
when was that? Wait, can you say that again?
2 years, roughly 2 years ago, I called and inquired. I had a friend look up the MLS, and I called and I said, "Oh, I'm interested in business." They said it was like $4,000, and I was like, "Oh." And they said they were planning to develop, and they said at that time that they were talking in talks with 7-Eleven. Just so you know. Another thing, as far as the postings, we did not receive the initial ABC notice. I received one, and when I talked to my neighbors, they said they did not receive it. So a lot of things were not done properly. And then I did contact the ABC personally to ask about how we could go against it before it came to this point. And I was referred to a Morella Herrera, who was directly in association with the application. I gave her a call, she never returned my call.
Thank
So
you.
just so you know.
Thank you very much.
All right, next is Mo Oxford.
Hi, I'm Mo Oxford. I do live in the neighborhood and I've lived there for more than a dozen years now. I'm captain of the neighborhood watch for Alumni Avenue, which is how I know these folks and some of the others that are here. I've spoken to a lot more than 17 of my nearby neighbors, and I've actually spoken to them personally. And I can tell you they are not in favor of the 7-Eleven at this location. 7-Eleven is on a big growth thing. They are targeting certain areas. One area of which is campus locations or near campus locations, targeting 17 to 34, and primarily because of the alcohol sales, in my opinion. 7-Eleven might argue that, but in my opinion, that's pretty obviously what it is. We do have already enough alcohol locations there. It's within walking distance of the campus. We have student parties there, and my guess is that a fairly significant number of those 122 calls for LAPD had to do with student parties, student activities, the drunken driving that we see around there. The last thing that we want as neighbors is a location even closer for the kids to walk to and buy alcohol at. When you're talking about this being in keeping with the character of Eagle Rock and something that we want, I can tell you that from my experience in the community, and I've been very active in the community over the last 13 years, this is not what we want. This is not in keeping with the character of my own community. Mr. Lee, I think I saw him here, from Echo Garden Nursery, that's in keeping with my community. And everyone that I talk to loves it. It's great, it's wonderful. Another business like that, we welcome them with open arms. And we'll patronize them, and we'll help make them successful just as we have Society of the Spectacle. But I can tell you right now, it is not these ladies behind this. We knew nothing about it. I didn't find out about it until there was outreach from the neighborhood council. One neighbor had said to me about 6 months ago that she'd seen a sign on that property saying 7-Eleven coming soon. And I immediately went looking, and nobody knew anything about it. Next thing I saw was something I think from David Green posted on Mila List. And as soon as I saw it, I started contacting neighbors. We are passing around petitions, so anyone in my neighborhood, expect to have a neighborhood watch member come. If you're available to walk around, please let me know. It is not supported by the community. It is not supported by the people who live there. We do not want it. And I understand that somebody's put a lot of money into developing this, and there's a sense that people have a right to do what they want to do on their own property. I get all that, but the truth of the matter is, these are not by right activities. It is not by right that you get a liquor license. It is not by right that you come in somewhere that requires a certain amount of approval to get the exemption. Those things are discretionary. And if somebody goofed and miscalculated in judging whether this was going to be a good fit for us or not, sorry, it happens sometimes. You know, it just does. So find us a couple more tenants like Echo Garden Nursery, we'll be thrilled. And we'll welcome you with open arms. We truly will.
Thank you. All right, next, Margaret Arnold.
I'm Margaret Arnold. I'm representing the Highland Park Chamber of Commerce.
This has been a really hard one for us because what's there now is ugly, it is a nuisance, but we've had to come down in the long run in opposition to the 7-Eleven going in there. Our reasoning is that 7-Eleven services are redundant. We already have coffee in the neighborhood. Cafe de Leche and Swark took a huge chance on Highland Park and Eagle Rock, and we need to be supportive of that. We don't need alcohol. We have plenty of places to get alcohol now. Tonawanda, we are afraid would become a conduit between Occidental and the 7-Eleven. It's too narrow for increased car traffic. It's too dark for foot traffic. It would be a very unsafe activity. And most of all, we fear that a 7-Eleven and the other businesses that we're hearing about going in there are just not in keeping with the character of the boulevard. York was once the place to see and be seen. It had ice cream and gift shops. It's been a really sad situation over a couple of decades, and now it's coming back. And we have small business owners who are taking the chance and making that happen. And those are the people who we need to really be supportive of as Chamber of Commerce members and as community members.
Thank you.
Nelson Grande.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Nelson Grande. I guess I'm really just going to be echoing a lot of what's already been said. Number one, Occidental College opposes the development. That to me is a very, very big statement. Mo stated that the community doesn't want it. Now, this is probably the single most important thing of all. You know, business is business. Business comes and goes. When it comes down to it, the people that have to live on the block are the ones that are really going to be affected most by it. It can be a prosperous business. All the other businesses can be prosperous businesses, but in the end, the people that really have to deal with it day by day are the people that live a block away. There is a liquor store a block away already. There is 7-Eleven a quarter mile away. There is CVS and Walgreens that are already selling liquor. There are restaurants that people need to have a drink with their dinner. So the amount of liquor in Eagle Rock is already very sufficient. If not, I personally would say that it's a little excessive, to be honest with you. While I do agree with Tim Ryder's notion stating that we should have, some sort of a committee stating what we will accept before all this money is spent, I have to say that this is sadly, one of those times that it's not. That this is a good thing to do in the future. Sadly, it's not one of those times. I'm a huge advocate of local businesses. Sadly, 7-Eleven is not a local business. It's not. It wouldn't be run or sold by someone that actually lives in Eagle Rock. I don't know. This is off the top of my head, but I can't imagine too many people involved in business development that actually live in Eagle Rock. And I guess lastly, talking about the support for it, 99% and all that stuff. Well, it's good to have support for it, but you don't have the fervor of opposition. The vocal people, the people that really, really should be taken into consideration are the people that are actually advocates in their own community. And the people that are actually the advocates in that community are the people that are opposed to this.
Thank you very much. I just have one input, and okay, we got one more, and then I'm going to go to another gentleman to ask a question.
Joe O'Kee.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Joe O'Kee. I'm a realtor in the area. I also have a home on Norwalk near the massage parlor. And I also own a building that's right opposite where your planned thing is supposed to be. I am the landlord for Gimme Gimme Records. They just moved in. And we did that building and the fourplex behind it. And the tenants and the tenant of Gimme Gimme are opposed to this, as am I. I worry for their safety. I've got new business people, downtown workers living in that area, and they're not happy with it. I also didn't hear about it until I saw it on Nila Business Culture 3 days ago. So we weren't alerted by it. I don't mind the design of the building. I don't believe 7-Eleven's your only anchor. I don't buy it. I had no trouble renting any of that building out. I had people fighting for the front building. I just don't buy it. I'm dealing with clients that have Silver Lake money that are choosing Highland Park. And to reiterate it, I just don't buy it. I really believe if you put your feelers out there, you'll get another tenant that fits with the York Boulevard vibe. I don't like the other buildings that will, the other shops that will be in those other empty spaces. I don't think that 7-Eleven encourages classy establishments. I don't want check cashing shops right next door to it. I don't want any of that. I'd really like to see you outreach and go for another anchor business. We've got a 7-Eleven, we don't need to. I'm not opposed to a liquor license, to be honest. I don't even drink, but if you're going to do a classy wine bar there, go for it. But I don't think it'll mirror what we already have. Those people that need that shop have it. I'd like to see variety. I see nothing but lines at Starbucks. I sit in that queue waiting for drive-through all the time. There's room for other places like that. I just don't see a huge lineup out the door at 7-Eleven. I don't need to.
Thank you. I just have just an input of Sergeant Salterra. Do you want to add anything before we go into asking our members?
You know, my partner, Carrasco, is dealing with the matter, so he can address it.
And if you have any questions, I can answer them as well. But let me ask a question to 7-Eleven. Can you guys open up a 7-Eleven there without a liquor license?
Be a dry 7-Eleven.
Yes,
That's
dry
what I call it.
7-Eleven. And the reason why I bring that up, because there's one on in Glendale and Alvarado.
Yeah, we can open dry, but 7-Eleven's intentions is to, like I said, obtain the liquor, the alcohol for beer and wine.
Okay. The reason why I bring that up too, because the one on Glendale and Alvarado, they're dry. They've been dry for about 6 months. And we opposed that, and they didn't get a liquor license.
And how long have they been there?
I'd say probably about 6 months.
And
About 6 months.
was there any stipulation that they come back a year or two to see if no complaints?
I got a call from the zoning, and they said that they will look into the matter about 5 years from now.
Oh, 5 years.
Yeah, that's what they told me, about 5 years.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go to our board members. Any questions, starting to my Irene?
The developers, how long is that going to take to do to get that sense of time?
Sense of time is upon 7-Eleven's approval, the financing is going to take about 90 days, and then the break ground. We hope to break ground simultaneously with the facelift of the existing building. And
the duration of the actual construction project?
It should take about a year and a half.
Okay, now, considering that the general contractor for this will be union or non-union?
The way the general contractors are selected typically is a bidding process. It goes on a service proposal. Well, it depends who actually submits their bids. And then from there, we make the determination. Our first goal is to use local companies, and then we branch out from there. But it just depends who comes
Well, the thing is,
for bid, basically.
I mean, given the fact that, I mean, it's a nice project and what the rest of the community, you know, their comments and input, my opinion, in the sense of would be considering if this project were to happen, would you guys make a point of making sure that there was local hire? Because there's a lot of, the economy is something really hard that's here, not just here, but in all the local surrounding areas, in Hudson Park, Glasgow Park. So I know for a fact, city or county, I mean, because that's what I actually am an employee in. We make sure that the contractors that build the house in certain communities meet the local hire initiative, which is normally 30% of the workers for any contractor. So, I mean, that would be something that should be considered for this project as well. You know, I mean, I'm not, I don't live in the immediate area, and I see where they're coming from, but in the sense of the economy, if you look at the, you know, the ratio of how many people are unemployed, you know, that would be something that should be a consideration, so that, whatever jobs that are put there, that these people hire local people in the vicinity, you know, within a 3 to
because that will not only boost the economy that you guys get, but also the surrounding communities for those individuals that, for those of us that need those jobs.
Thank you. Thank you.
Can I just ask a question for
Yes.
point of clarification for our benefit and everyone else's? What we're voting on tonight is strictly the 7-Eleven and their application for licenses, correct?
Correct.
They're not voting on the full development, and that's something that you would have to come back to us and to the city with, because that's not going to be included currently.
Lauren, that's
Correct?
Land use motion?
That is correct.
Well, I was actually, yeah.
We're not voting on a development right now, that's part of the whole picture, but that's not something we're considering tonight. You would have to come back to get the site plan approved and all of that with the city and with us. Yes.
We do have our architects working on that,
Right.
but our plans are contingent on 7-Eleven's approval. So that's basically where we're at. So the additional 5,000 square feet that we would build, 5,700 square feet that we would build for local businesses would be contingent on.
But it's going to be a separate.
Yes.
One more question, sorry, one more question.
Just to clarify, but I think we could actually encourage the developer to, even if 7-Eleven is voted down, to come back with another anchor tenant and generally support the development as rendered. So I think we are empowered.
Okay, and so if,
Basically, based on my experience, and I've been doing this for 17 years, it's the tenant's credit rating that affords financing. I can tell you that based on my 17 years of experience in doing this, it is my professional opinion that without 7-Eleven, we're not going to be able to procure another credit rating tenant that's going to take a corner, that's going to afford this financing that we've already received, already got.
I still have one more question. So, wait, I have another question. So if the 7-Eleven is approved, are you going to put the 7-Eleven in the existing building prior to starting the rest of the development?
Yes.
And then you'll build around the 7-Eleven as it stands in the existing building?
Basically, yes. What's going to happen, first you're going to have to give the building a facelift to match this design. And then, while that's happening, we're going to be going through plan check for the rest of the development.
Thank you. Any questions?
No, I think that has been expressed by our stakeholders. And, I live not too far from the establishment that sells alcohol, and I cleaned up broken bottles in the morning, so I can totally relate with our stakeholders.
Thank you. Michael?
Just a comment for those who don't have an agenda packet. Included in the packet are approximately 17 pieces of correspondence from the community, including some of you here, all of which oppose the development for reasons similar to what I've already stated. And as to what I've seen coming into the neighborhood council's inbox, I haven't seen any community members reaching out in support of the project, with the exception of one commenter on our Facebook page who, to give credit where it's due, did think that this was better than nothing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. A quick question and then a comment. I know it's not part of the architectural issue, but you anticipate signage for 7-Eleven roughly the same size and luminosity as the one here in Colorado?
Yeah, we'll utilize the existing, I think the pole sign, the pole sign that's out there, we'll utilize that with the 7-Eleven Keystone logo on there. And we'll also have a sign on the door as well.
And what hours would it be illuminated? 24 hours?
Well, it will be illuminated at 9 to 9.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. So it's not the day, it's like all night long. So just a point of clarification. I may have missed some of the subtleties, but I just want to make sure I understand the modifications that you were going to pass on to, 7-Eleven was going to pass on different substantially from the ones that were approved by the land use committee. Most notably the hours of operation of the tenant, right? They proposed I'm just saying that what we had is a proposal, a conditional approval, and if if I understood correctly, and if I'm trying to describe the situation accurately, the ones that you accepted differ substantially from what was, quote, approved by this ad hoc subcommittee.
Hours of operation.
Like hours of operation was the big one that took.
So I think the hours of operation were the same, but the sale of.
The sale of alcohol started at 8 a.m., is that correct?
Then you said noon, we,
Okay.
7-Eleven agreed to 8 a.m.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Ashley, any other questions?
So, first of all, I want to thank y'all come a lot, it's been hard for y'all, so thank you for coming out. But, a couple things about, you go around the day, this one has to focus, because we can't stop you from opening 7-Eleven, nobody can. The only thing that we're being asked to do is to write a letter that goes into the zoning administrator file. You're asking for two things. One is 24-hour operation. If you want to open from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., you can do that because that's the existing zoning. The other issue is alcohol, right? Are we going to, in our little letter, are we going to say, yeah, they can serve beer and wine? That's it. All this other stuff, the pre-plans, the Pinkberry, the Chipotle, that's just all nonsense as far as I'm concerned. Because it's not what we're being asked for. You can't stop the development. All we can do is say, yes, liquor in the hours. So I just want to point that out to everybody, including the parents. Thank you.
Cool, I've got a few questions. I'll try to be brief. Thanks for coming. Thanks you guys for coming. This is what the neighborhood council is all about, in my estimation. Mr. Deegan, who owns the building?
It's a corporation, I'm sorry, it's an LLC, Commercial Property Holdings LLC. It was a couple, a older gentleman who is now deceased, and a 75-year-old woman now, I believe, who is the remaining member of that.
And where do they live?
They live in Los Angeles.
What's the name?
Hold on. How are you, I mean, what is your position? You are not, you are what? You are the developer? You represent the developer?
I'm part of Newcastle Associates. We are a property management company, asset management. We provide construction services. We also help with procuring financing and we'll provide services.
Are you related to anything?
I am not.
Next question. I heard that you're going back to the planning department just to do tenant improvements to the 7-Eleven portion of the existing building, right? Correct. Is that correct? So nothing else is included. Do you need the loan from Farmers and Mechanics Bank to open the 7-Eleven or to do the rest of the construction?
I believe that the financing there were before was for the entire project, and the way that it works is that they fund them in phases or tranches, basically. So the first portion of the financing is going to be released for the construction and the TIs for 7-Eleven, and the rest of the phases are going to be released for the rest of the development.
Because what I've heard, the raison d'etre of the getting specifically 7-Eleven with a liquor license is to get this loan from Farmers and Mechanics Bank. So conceivably, you could ask for a smaller loan from a different bank just to open 7-Eleven or just to open something else. I'm trying to figure out if this is about a loan to you or about, you know what I mean? Because it sort of comes down to this loan to me. So if we approve of 24-hour operation and liquor sales from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., what is going to happen at that site? You're going to improve, go to the city, you're going to improve the 7-Eleven, and then what?
And then we're going to build the rest of the center.
Okay, what guarantee do these people have that you're going to build the rest of the center? Is there anything in planning, is there anything planning can do, or the city can do, or this board can do to guarantee that that rendering occurs in the building?
I can assure you that the interest of the developer is to build the rest of the center, there's financing. Because 7-Eleven alone is not going to, the amount of money they pay for the property is just not.
No, I believe you. Thank you for that. Next question. You hired David Friedland to do that design. Did you hire him for anything else? Have you contracted him, or you hired him to make a drawing?
As far as this project?
As far as David Friedland goes, the architect of that, what people are looking at.
Yes, but basically, we had originally used Bruce Rudman as the original.
Well, I just want to know what your contract with David Friedman is right now. Where do you stand with David Friedman?
Yes. He is going to continue with design. The first part of his contract was to provide the design. The second part of his contract is actually to be involved to actually make sure that the integrity of the design stays intact. As far as the sourcing of the materials.
Okay, next question. When you do the tenant improvements to the 7-Eleven portion of the existing building, what's it going to look like? We're going to open the 7-Eleven as quickly as possible. Is it going to look like the right half of that thing? So it's going to be a new part and the old part.
That's correct.
So it's going to look like that.
It's going to look like that.
All right. Finally, you couldn't get a loan on the back of the Chipotle? I mean, I don't know about these things, but somehow a 7-Eleven, a wet 7-Eleven creates more, I mean, is better rated, is more loan.
It's the credit rating of 7-Eleven. Financing is not available right now to the majority of the developers. There's no construction financing.
But if you went to Farmers Mechanics Bank and said, I have a Chipotle, they would say, go right?
The Chipotle is not, we don't have a signed lease with Chipotle, first of all. Second, the credit rating is not nearly as strong as 7-Eleven's credit rating.
Are you sure about that?
Yes, absolutely.
That's given.
Also, the house for a site that they're taking up the center is a lot smaller.
Is a lot smaller.
Comparison.
And the only other thing, two things I want to point out to the board. One is that to play off what Ashley was saying, basically what we're voting on is 24-hour operation and liquor sales. We're not really voting on whether we like 7-Eleven. It could be any business asking for those two things, and that's what we're doing right here. And the other thing I want to point out is the petition I saw, the question on the petition is not, do you want 24-hour operation and liquor sales? Would you approve of a 7-Eleven built on this corner if the rest of this were built? Right? I mean, if this entire building were improved in this particular way, something like that. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Just one question here. I think we asked that question. Is it a franchise?
They haven't identified a franchise.
Yeah. Okay.
It will be a franchise.
And the other question I have, how long is the term of the nursery, the lease?
Basically, the lease of the nursery is currently temporary. It's supposed to be a 6-month lease. However, our intention is to keep them if they were willing to stay, and we want to incorporate them into the center. One of the things that we've been working with them about is to create a rooftop deck, a rooftop garden, so they could place, and also we would be more than willing if they're able to get the support of the community, and if they do well and they want to stay, we'd be more than willing to also give them retail space.
Now,
We really encourage.
6 months lease, was that you offered them that, or they asked for that?
They asked for that.
Only 6 months. See how far they go. Okay, that's all I have. Go ahead.
So, well, the first thing I would say is Chipotle was spun off from McDonald's, so I don't think that's I think they are at a different level than 7-Eleven, so just to clarify that. But one thing just about the stakeholders, a couple of points that they made in terms of going back a couple of years, what kind of rent were you offering for that place? Did you in fact have discussions with 7-Eleven dating back to 2 years ago? Did that sort of color that process of trying to lease that property, or when you set the monthly rent for, did that sort of?
Well, we didn't really set a price for the place. We actually hired a broker who didn't rent the premises. After their term expired, we changed brokers for a second time. And finally, we gave up on the brokers and put up our own sign. The only real, most tangible tenant that we were able to acquire was a laundromat who has been interested, basically Point Laundry, which is, the place was zoned for it, they could go in there, no problem, and they are willing to pay, I believe it was something like $1.25 a square foot, which would really, I mean, even at $1.25, really wouldn't pencil for the developers, but nevertheless, as a last priority, they would bring the Point Laundry. When I look at this facility and I ask myself, would I rather have a coin laundry and nothing else, or would I rather have a 7-Eleven, a brand new 7-Eleven? Because I believe a lot of people have the conception of it, these old 25-year-old 7-Elevens that are just brightly lit and with posters on the windows, and this is not the 7-Eleven that these gentlemen are talking about. If you see the graphics of the new 7-Elevens, it has wood paneling, it has gourmet products, healthy foods, is not the same as a 25-year-old 7-Eleven in a blighted corner. It's a different product.
In 25 years, it's going to be old. And
And
we'll still be living.
If we can go ahead, yes.
Just to, also, you haven't identified the franchisees, so you don't know how it's going to operate. So, I'd say that, we know that it's going to have wood paneling and that they're going to operate this way, this or that, like posters or whatever. So, there's some standardization, but it's up to them on some level to how they run the business. Is that correct?
I think that's a good question for them, but I can tell you from the developer side that we have CCNRs in place, rules and regulations for the center. We operate a very tight ship, and we have a very strong vested interest to make sure that the center remains beautiful, and we want to protect the assets for the community and for the developer. So we're going to really make sure the place remains nice for 25 years.
It's kind of sad that we had a long agenda, but the presentation they brought before land use, the fresh fruit, the coffee, the pastries, and all that stuff that they brought, showing the photographs, the state of the art. Less, what we're seeing here is the older 7-Eleven. Any other questions?
I had two quick clarifications. So, out of curiosity, when you're talking about this coin laundering facility, did you get loan financing based on coin laundry coming out?
Absolutely not. And this is the reason why the coin laundry facility was to be implemented there. There will be no other development. We'll just have a coin laundry in that little house, which used to be a dispensary previously, and a burned down garage.
Well, and a garden.
So then my last clarification is that say the 7-Eleven does not go forward, what would be your next move as a developer?
At this time, it would be coin laundry.
Like 100% coin laundry?
There is no other option for us at this point. I mean, we have beat this property to the ground. We've had tenants that contacted us, they wanted to pay 50 cents a square foot. Oh, we'll pay $900 a month. And how could the developer pencil $900 a month?
So $1.25 is the maximum you've got.
So far, yes.
What would the rent be that 7-Eleven would pay per square foot? Just to have a sense of these.
I don't want to misquote the number. And also, I'm not sure, we're under some confidentiality agreements, I'm not sure if I'll be violating.
Sure, understood. Yeah, I mean, I was looking from the perspective of.
But it's significantly more.
So I'm a visual artist and I'm sort of in the business of moving into neighborhoods that are derelict and forgotten and then fixing them up on my own with a few friends and then attracting other tenants. And I'm currently paying 65 cents a square foot in a great neighborhood in Atwater. So I have to say I'm sympathetic with the idea of trying to get someone local in who's going to work with the existing. I mean, I regret that in all this time I haven't had a chance to actually go by and look at the site. And I'm tremendously sympathetic to all the work that you guys have done. But I have to say, looking at the renderings now, I don't actually feel like even the renderings are in keeping with what I'd like to see the neighborhood become. I like the idea that they're going to be modernized facilities, maybe they're green, but I haven't heard anything about that I find really compelling about the development. And I guess it's going to sound corny, but I also am quite moved by these arguments to make essentially decisions out of hope rather than fear. And so when I hear there's nothing else that can be done or we need this anchor tenant in order to secure the financing, as sympathetic as I am to the work that you've put into it, I guess I feel like going forward with this is making a decision out of fear. And so I want to be a voice of really trying to support a renewed effort to make something very unique, very local, and that will be an attraction to the neighborhood. I was also thinking about, I believe that 99% of the people that you spoke with were in support of it, and I'm sure that if you did go to Starbucks, most of those people would have been. And then I'm thinking, like, what Starbucks do I go to? And I don't go to my local Starbucks. I go to the Starbucks that when I'm across town and I don't know, and I need my Prius to tell me where to go, and it knows Starbucks, and so I know. So I do think in terms of people that are going to live with this for a long time. I know I'm such a cliche, right? But I do feel like in terms of the people that are going to live with this, it's probably not what we've talked about on this board is the Starbucks stakeholders. Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Andrea had a quick question.
I just have a comment. I don't know how many of you own businesses. I know you have the Society of the Spectacle. I know that you have Bellissimo. I just wondered if you were questioned to this degree before opening your business. I believe in free enterprise. If we don't like what they put up, we don't have to patronize it. And that is the way it works, in my view. Thank you.
That's true. Any other questions down there? Another one?
I mean, it's just worth. This is the kind of business that would end up being in the neighborhood for, like you said, 25 or 30 years. It's clearly a lucrative model. It's not really something we can go back on. And the second point is just another sort of data point, which is that Highland Park was recently considered the hottest neighborhood in the United States. And that was buoyed in large part by the York Boulevard Strip. So that 7-Eleven is the only tenant with the interest in this space is, to me, not convincing.
Thank you. Caroline, no more questions? Okay, I think we've had most of the questions. All our board members, so we need to come up to...
I'd like to make a move that the Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council, in our letter to the zoning administrator, come out in opposition for both the hours of operation outside 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. and the off-site beer and wine license.
Second. Okay, we're going to take a roll. Anybody? Okay, so now we have comment on our board.
Anyone wants to make a comment?
I want to make one last comment, is that we're not telling them they can't open their business. They're asking for variances to the zoning. That's all they're asking us for. So if they can open their business, if you open 7-Eleven from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., I might stop by once every 3 years. And that's okay.
Then again, they could open up a laundromat too without even coming before us.
True.
And
Absolutely.
parking and you're bringing people. So
Very
those are
true.
people that
Very
need
true.
to consider that if they want to put a 7-Eleven drive, they can do that too without coming before us. So there was a motion and there was any other discussion on this?
I guess I would just add that, I am sympathetic to business owners and people who want to open business and improve the community. Part of this body's only mandate is to listen to the community, be a conduit from people who live in the community to the city government, and to listen to them. And we've heard a lot from them. We've heard 100%, 99.9% opposition, not to 7-Eleven per se, but to 24-hour operation. I think it's been almost 80% against 24-hour operation, maybe 20 to 30% against wine and beer sales. And to me, that is very compelling. It's about, I don't even know about the history of Eagle Rock, but we have Colorado Boulevard, which is a commercial strip with housing just north of it. And Eagle Rock went through a process very similar to this about 10, 15 years ago, where people who lived just above the commercial strip realized they had some power and some say into what their neighborhoods would look like. And to me, that seems what's happening here. It's people who live in Highland Park, or actually it's not Highland Park, it's Eagle Rock, but above York are thinking about this too, and we're thinking about this. And it's again, it's the way the system is supposed to work, and it's our mandate.
Okay, so we had a motion and we had a second. All in favor of the motion?
Can you state the motion?
Yes. Sure, my motion is just that we write a letter that goes into the zoning administrator file that says the Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council is opposed to both variances, one of those being operating outside the hours of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m., and the others being off-site beer and wine sales.
Everybody heard that? Okay, so all in favor with this motion, and you can raise your hand.
Aye.
Ms. Calvin, please keep it up. Do we have any opposed? Abstain? Okay, there was one opposed. Any abstain? 1, 2 abstain. So the motion fails. The motion passes that we're restricting the letter. Now,
Could you clarify for
who's the other abstain? The other abstain?
Did the motion pass?
Yes.
Give that clarity.
Now, again, Hearing Council, this is how we voted. We had to hear everybody's, sorry, it doesn't always go in favor of how we have to hear what the stakeholders say, and we have to listen to them. They live there, they work there. So again, I'm sorry, and also for taking the time and the effort coming to the meetings. Hopefully you'll come before us again on some project that hopefully the neighborhood will like. Sorry for that. Thank you very much. The other item we're going to move forward to is 3Q, discussion action item 3 RC Executive Committee.
Killing the legal rights. We're still working and we're not getting paid, so be quiet.
So, you volunteer. Item 3Q, everybody has it on there. It's the scheduled ERC Executive Committee, February 26th, and full board meeting on March the 5th. And I hear second?
I wanted to change the full board meeting to a different Tuesday of the month. I talked
I made a request of the executive committee to put that on the agenda.
Jackie's over there, go get my jacket.
And the only reason we found out is the meetings that are here wouldn't work for us, especially Thursdays, and they have other meetings that are falling here, and this is only the 9th.
Andrew, what was the reason for the request to move it?
another board that meets this night. The first Tuesday, you couldn't do it on the second Tuesday.
Well, you know, it's our fault for not telling you that the executive committee didn't put that on the agenda, but the main reason is that we discussed is this has been the first Tuesday for a really long time, and it was on the first Tuesday before the previous election cycle. So,
If you could, just, call in at this unexcused and just see the minutes and everything, if you don't, not to miss, on a, monthly thing, but I know it's hard, but the majority of it and the availability is the hard part. We did check on that. So thank you. Okay, we had a motion to approve, the last item, and all in favor from item, Q. Second, all in favor? Any opposed? Abstain?
I made a motion.
Made a motion. Okay, we're gonna, we got that put through. Just real quickly, we just want to go over how many people were for the committee, neighborhood council members were for the motion, and how many were opposed.
Which motion?
This is on the 7-11.
Ashley abstained, Ashley and Irene abstained.
Ashley and Larry.
Irene abstained.
And Ashley.
Ashley and I abstained.
One opposed.
She opposed.
Correct.
No.
Two abstentions. One no. Hold that over there. Just keep it going. Hold it on the board. Like that. Just like that. Just like that.
There was a second.